Is Brooklyn's own Brian Fallon, the press secretary for Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign. Brian, thank you for crossing the bridge. Which bridge did you come over?
The Brooklyn Bridge, always.
Very good. Thank you for doing that. We pointed out earlier in the show that one of your, Jim Messina, Obama campaign manager from 2012, and now a surrogate for your campaign, had a little trouble answering the question of what Hillary Clinton's original new economic ideas were this morning. Can you tell us what some of her original innovative economic ideas are?
First of all, I thought his answer was just fine. Our infrastructure proposal, which would invest $500 billion into rebuilding our roads and bridges, would put a lot of people to work. So I thought that was a good...
What's original about our infrastructure?
A few things. Yeah. So one of the first speeches that we gave in New York City at the launch of the campaign was about raising wages. And in that speech, she talked about a profit-sharing proposal that would incentivize companies to reward workers whose productivity has been responsible for the near-record profits that a lot of corporations are seeing right now.
But that's not part of the infrastructure plan.
That's a different proposal.
Okay. So is there anything original about the infrastructure plan?
The level of investment, it far exceeds the president's. How she would pay for it, so sure.
How would she pay for it?
By asking the wealthier to do more, including with a bunch of corporate tax loopholes that we will announce when we put out our corporate tax reform plan. So but also, and I heard the discussion in the earlier segment, you guys should know that we've put out a raft of different middle-class tax cut proposals, including targeted tax credits for things like prescription drug costs and child care, but we have not revealed the extent of our middle-class tax cut proposal. Absolutely. And we did that on purpose with an eye towards preserving it for a general election campaign.
So just talk about some of her general principles regarding how tax policy relates to economic growth for families.
So I think that there's been a lot of coverage to this effect, which is that Hillary Clinton views the tax code as a vehicle for helping incentivize responsible behavior by our corporate citizens. So you have the profit-sharing proposal that I mentioned.
Right.
She'd also use the tax code to disincentivize some of the irresponsible corporate behavior we've seen. For instance, she would impose an exit tax on companies that try to invert themselves and register themselves as having their headquarters abroad. So that's something that we've seen President Obama crack down on. But she would go further and say, all those profits that you have parked offshore, we're not even going to wait for you to try to repatriate them here in the United States. We're going to tax them as soon as you try to leave and move to whatever country you're going to headquarter yourself in. She's also got a clawback proposal where she would say, if you close a factory in the United States and you move jobs overseas, we're going to claw back the value of your R&D tax credit that helped you subsidize your research and development.
These are all specific proposals. I'm asking you for, like, how would you characterize her philosophy towards these? What's the umbrella?
Well, what it all adds up to?
Yeah.
I think that our story that we will tell in the general election is that President Obama has done a Herculean task in terms of lifting the country out of a great recession that rivaled the Depression of several decades ago, but that the prosperity that we're starting to see is not fully shared, and that we still have a stacked deck where too much of the rewards of the improved economy today are flowing to the top in terms of CEO pay, shareholder dividends. Not enough of that money is flowing down in terms of investing in the workforce.
So she would support economic policies which would take money from the people who are currently well off and doing well and move it to people who are lower down the economic ladder? That's
what the tax proposal to incentivize profit sharing by corporations is all about. It's a carrot, not a stick. But we think it would be a significant inducement towards more responsible, and we think it's smart corporate behavior. If you look at Chobani, the Greek yoga company based in New York, the CEO of that company made headlines a few weeks ago for announcing that he was going to reward his employees, all his rank and file workers, with stock. We think that's the type of smart, forward-looking approach to running your business that we should incentivize from the government.
So at the end of 4 years of Hillary Clinton's first term, how would middle-class families be doing as compared to how they're doing now?
She has said that her number one goal is to see wages rise. That hasn't happened in a couple decades. It hasn't. I'm not going to put a number on it, but our goal is to achieve something that we haven't seen since the 1990s, which is not just putting more people to work, but seeing more people paid higher wages.
So she's talked about how President Clinton's going to have a role in her White House if she becomes president as an economic advisor. Can you tell us, number one, is he advising her on the economy now? And in what ways?
Well, as you guys know better than most people, he's got a wealth of ideas at any given time.
So are there particular things that he's advised her to? Are there ideas that she's put forward that come from him?
Well, I think what she referred to in terms of what role he would play in an administration is not some official role where he would be the chair of the NEC or have some cabinet post, but be particularly focused on regions of the country that have seen a lot of disinvestment. And so she made the comments in Kentucky and West Virginia with an eye towards how can we lift up the whole country.
So, but are there ideas that he's given her that she's espouting on the campaign trail now?
I'm not going to credit any of these proposals that we've talked to exclusively to him. I think that wouldn't be accurate.
Right.
She's had a raft of individuals that she solicits advice from, but these proposals are her own.
And, she's taking some criticism for this, right? The notion that he would be this two for the price of one thing.
Yeah.
Is there political risk involved in that or no?
I'll let other people judge that. I think she was just speaking sincerely about the role she expects to play. I think it wouldn't come across as genuine. I think people would think it was phony if she acted like she wasn't going to be taking his advice.
You're a former Justice Department spokesman, so let me ask you a couple questions about the FBI and the Justice Department. Has Secretary Clinton been interviewed by the FBI yet, or the Justice Department, regarding the email investigation?
No, I don't have an update on that since the last time she was asked.
Has her counsel been contacted?
To my knowledge, no.
When she is, will you announce it?
That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that. I tend to think that whenever it happens, it's not going to escape notice for very long. So one way or the other, I'm sure everybody will be apprised.
So there's been, as far as you know, no preliminary conversation about where and when.
Well,
how?
let me be clear, because sometimes our political opponents try to parse words here and suggest that we're being misleading. Since last August, when this review was first announced, David Kendall has been in recurring touch with the officials at the Justice Department, as anybody would when there's a review
But nothing
like
you
this
know
afoot.
about is what you're saying.
But nothing that has moved towards, hey, can we schedule an appearance? I'm not aware of any contact.
It's being reported now that Terry McAuliffe, a close ally of Secretary Clinton, is being investigated. Do you know anything about that?
I do not.
What do you and the campaign think of Terry McAuliffe's ethics?
I have nothing to say on that because I haven't even seen the report.
Well, but just in general, do you have any reason to believe he would ever do anything wrong, illegal?
I'm not going to weigh in on the report since I just watched.
I wouldn't ask you about the report. I was just asking to say what a great guy Terry is.
I assume you're aware of the Instagram video that Donald Trump posted today with a picture of President Clinton.
I heard about it. I got a few inquiries that I didn't respond to.
Right. So you have not looked at it?
Oh, I watched it.
You've watched it. What do you think of it?
This is just the latest in his Roger Stone developed strategy to try to distract from an issues-based campaign, which is what we intend to run here. And, to be honest, I think it's bad strategy. I've seen smart Republican operatives go on television and say that they actually have tested some of these lines of attack, and they actually alienate independent voters, especially women. So to me, every day that he spends engaged in this type of stuff is a misspent opportunity for him in terms of doing the outreach he needs to do to improve his numbers.
Is it the campaign's plan, basically, as he raises these issues, the related set of issues related to President Clinton, women, Hillary Clinton's complicity in that, all of that stuff, is your plan to go through the whole campaign and basically just respond in this way? I'd be fair if it was, but your attitude, we're just not going to dignify that with a response.
Well,
we're not going
these
to
allegations
respond
were
on the
litigated
merits.
2 decades ago.
Right.
And so I don't think that Donald Trump himself views these attacks as having some kind of political upside with independent voters, because Rick Wilson and others have said, we tested this is bad strategy.
Presumably thinks it has some upside.
Well, here's what I think he's doing. I think he's trying to practice the politics that worked for him in the primary, which is just throw stuff out there, try to get under people's skin, try to get in people's heads, take whatever collateral damage it may bring in terms of hurting his own negatives.
Right.
His negatives, by the way, are well-deserved and hard-earned at this point. I mean, people talk about the negatives, Hillary Clinton and him being apples to apples. He has gone out, those are his own words that have now added up to those high negatives, whereas for her, these are the product of attacks that have been directed at her. So I think that he has courted the downsides of accruing these high negatives because he thinks that this is a way to get in his opponent's head, psych them out. Hillary Clinton is not going to go for that. She can't be psyched out. You saw that she sat through 11 hours before the Benghazi committee hearing back in October. This is somebody who has a steel backbone.
Luckily, we're going to continue to practice psyops on you, Brian Fallon, for the next few months, and we'll see if we can crack you.